Hi, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, you have my January TBR. This TBR came together actually really easily because I was choosing books to fit all of the different goals and checking things off all the different lists that I have. So that's how I'm going to talk about the books today in terms of the goals that they meet. So I'm going to start with the category that has the most different other lists that it also fulfills, and that is nonfiction. I have 5 books on my nonfiction list. The first of those is Muddy People, a Muslim coming of age by Sara El-Sayed. This is a physical ARC that I received through Library Thing. I want to stay up to date with the physical ARCs that I have received from them because they've put in a new system for getting giveaways where you are eligible for more giveaways if you're above a certain percentage. So I just want to stay up to date on those, and I have this one and then one I just received. Next we have Out of Order, Stories from the History of the Supreme Court by Sandra Day O'Connor. This is a book that fulfills one of my goals, the goal to clear the oldest books from my want to read list or shelf on Goodreads. This is a book that I put on that list back in 2013, and it's actually the year that this book was published. So if I had read it then, it would have been brand new. Next, we have the 2 books from my 23 and 23 list. Technically, I would need to read 2 books off this list per month, except for one of them. There may be months where I read more or less. It just depends, but I decided to put both of these as nonfiction, and these are the 2 nonfiction on that list that I own at the moment. The first of those is The Devil's Highway. It tells the story of a particularly inhospitable stretch of the border between Mexico and the United States. And His Truth is Marching On, John Lewis and the Power of Hope by John Meacham, which talks about John Lewis, as the subtitle states. The last of the 5 nonfiction books that I have is actually a book that I have as an ARC on NetGalley. And I mentioned in my goals video that so many of those books I've fallen so far behind that they're actually published. And there are several books here that I either own or got from the library that I have ARCs of. I want to focus on that, so there is a very large number of books on this list that will fulfill that goal, help me meet that goal. And so one of my nonfictions is one of those. That is A Man of Iron, The Turbulent Life and Improbable Presidency of Grover Cleveland. Grover Cleveland became president upon the assassination of Andrew Garfield. He was no one's first choice, and he had a very interesting presidency. Next, we have my January Buzzwordathon book, and the category for that was Life and Death. And for that one, I chose When Life Gives You Mangoes by Karine Gettin. In this book, the middle grade protagonist lives on a Caribbean island that suffered the wrath of a hurricane, and at that particular time, for a reason that she doesn't know, she lost a lot of her memories from around the time of the hurricane, and this story is her dealing with that. Next, we have a book off of my series to start list. I have 10 of them, so I don't have to do one every month, but I'm starting one now because most of those series are backlist series, and they wouldn't fulfill either of my goals for SCASL in the summer and Goodreads Project in November, December. So I wanted to go ahead and get a jump on that. And so for that one, because it's winter, I've chosen Frostheart by Jamie Lidler. In Frostheart, the main character, I think his name is Ash, he's suffered the loss of his parents, but he has this magic that's supposed to be not allowed, but he finds this found family. I've heard really good things about this from Gavin with How to Train Your Gavin. I mean, he named his cats Ash and Tobu, which is another character from this series. So I'm really excited to give this a chance. Speaking of series, I want to complete as many series as possible, and I could just stick one on here and that would fulfill the goal. However, I updated my series list earlier today, and I have a lot of series on this list, and I want to make more of a dent into that, especially a lot of the backlist series, which I will be making a video on sometime in the future, hopefully near future. So I've actually put 2 series on this list. I have put Vengeful, which completes the Villain's Duology by V.E. Schwab. I have heard that there's going to be a 3rd book in the series, but there's nothing definitive on it. So by reading this, I will count this series as complete. And then we have the 5th Wave series. It is a trilogy, and I have the 5th Wave. It's just at my classroom library. And so we have the 2nd book, The Infinite Sea, and the 3rd book, The Last Star. By completing those, I'll complete 2 series. Before I talk about the last category, I'm going to talk about 2 books that don't fulfill any of my goals for the year, which is totally fine, but the other category is bigger, so I'm going to talk about this here. And the first of those is My Imaginary Mary by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This is a book that I had on my December TBR, but then it just got to the point where I didn't really have enough time to finish it, so I have pushed it to January. And then we have A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman. I purchased this book after seeing a trailer for the movie starring Tom Hanks. I really want to see it, so I really want to read the book first. And then we have my biggest category, which are arcs from NetGalley in an effort to get caught up. I have 5 here in front of me, not counting the 6th one that is nonfiction. These are all fiction. I also have one of them, which is an audiobook on Scribd. I'm a little behind on my NetGalley reading. The first of those we have is Wingbearer by Marjorie Liu and Teni Isakanyan. The fact that the illustrator was Armenian was definitely the thing that pushed me over the edge to go ahead and purchase this. Also, it just looks fantastic. Next we have Ibelis Explains It All by Andrea Beatriz Arango. This is one of the books that I decided to go ahead and pre-order when everything was coming out about Barnes & Noble's new policy regarding middle grade books getting hardback space on their shelves. And this is one of the ones that Barnes & Noble had declined to give hardback space on their shelves. So I went ahead and pre-ordered it. I had the arc for it, and it's told in verse. Next we have Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I have loved her Fable duology. I adored Sky in the Deep. She has had 2 books that I haven't been super fans of, but they were like 3 stars. I just don't have them in my library. So I've heard mixed things about this, but I'm intrigued enough. She has a really good win ratio for me that even though this seems lightly magical, it's adult and it's more urban, small town, I want to give this a try. And then we have 2 books that are both from the Rick Riordan imprint. The first of those is Sir Roboteng's Guide to Vampire Hunting. It is by Roseanne A. Brown. I've read one other book by Roseanne A. Brown, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I didn't see anything that I totally disliked. So I'm willing to give it a shot on this, and it seems really adorable. It is some sort of African mythology, but it doesn't say in the blurb. So I'll actually have to read it to find out which African mythology this is actually exploring. And then lastly, we have The Lords of Night, a Shadow Bruja novel by J.C. Cervantes. I have read one other J.C. Cervantes book, which was also a Rick Riordan imprint book. I forget the name of it. I believe it was The Storm Runner. And I was really intrigued by the take that Cervantes took on Mesoamerican mythology, which is not something that talked about, explored a lot in novels. This, I believe, is related to The Storm Runner. I believe it's a duology or series, so I will have to check to see if I need to read those first. I don't think I do, but having read The Storm Runner, I think I have enough groundwork in this world to read this one as well. So there you go. That's about 17, 18 books on the TBR. That's a very large TBR for most people, and especially since I'm, going back to work, and I'm also traveling to Houston for a marathon. And will I get through this? I hope so. 18 has been the lowest month out of all of 2022, so I think I can handle all of this. None of these are behemoths of books, and every single book will help me towards a goal, except for 2 of them, but that's okay. I'm excited about what January is going to bring, and I'm really excited about these new lists to help me compile my TBRs. So, thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.